I think one of the things that we are grappling with is, as a country, we've been dealing with the issue of political impunity, and it manifests in different ways. And around election time, of course, it manifests in violence. And the journey that we've been on in terms of enacting a new constitution, building up the institutions that are supposed to safeguard the implementation of the constitution for the well-being of Kenyans, is the process we've been under. Now, the situation we are in is very much linked to the nature and character of the administration. And I'm sorry, I'll keep coming back to that point, because it's about leadership. What is the political character of the Jubilee administration that has now actually almost reinvented itself? Because when you look at Azimio, there's one, you know, the president of the party is actually the head of state. When you look at the Kenya Kwanza, you're looking at the deputy president. So really, what is the political character of these leaders? One, they are students of Moi. And they have been students of Moi in the way they conduct their politics, you know, politics of betrayal, politics of winner takes all, politics of mobilization. But even beyond the absolute leadership, even the political leaders, as we were being told by Beatrice, politicians know that to win elections, by any means necessary, you bribe, you mobilize, you have a jeshi. We've talked about the violence meted out, why a lot of women candidates don't get into competitive politics is because of the violence. So I think we have to be honest with ourselves as a country and say that there is a big conversation we are ignoring, which is our political culture is still working against our best interests. Come here, 2020, when we have an economic crisis, this is a powder keg waiting to blow, because it can easily run out of control. Because people who have a youthful majority without jobs, without hopes and aspirations for jobs, who don't respect or believe in systems, because they know and understand you need money and you need violence to get ahead. When you combine those factors, it is extremely dangerous. What I would expect to see, and what we haven't seen with our political leaders, and we saw this even during COVID, our political leaders deemed it more important to run BBI campaigns than it was to deal with the economic situation. As we sit here, we are having a repeat of the same. Rather than deal with the economic meltdown that's happening, rather than deal with the welfare of Kenyans, our political leaders are thinking about power. So the question is, how do we stop this kind of implosion and deterioration of things? Okay. So religious leaders have spoken. As Daisy said, we have the peace entrepreneurs who I think in a way have a selfish interest to say, please just keep things calm enough so that we can continue to do our business without dealing with the root cause, which is political accountability. We have to call out our political leaders. Even appointments, when we talk about the security apparatus, what kind of appointments have been made? What kind of people are leading these institutions, and are they guided by the Constitution or by some other interest? The question we must be asking, is this state-sponsored violence? Okay. Is this violence that has been allowed to happen by the state for their own means? And then, of course, we are saying we've got a bit of the state on both sides of the political divide. So we need to ask, we need to be true to this, we need to ask hard questions, otherwise this could get very, very nasty.
Okay, and like Beatrice, just quickly, Beatrice, I'd like it, I'm coming to you, Daisy, but Beatrice, just think about this. What about the responsibility of the voter? Wanjiru said we need to elect persons of integrity. So even as we point fingers at the political class, what responsibility does the voter bear? Are they looking at the manifestos, 10-point agendas that have been launched? Are they looking at these charters? Is that going to inform who they vote for? All right, Daisy, on the question of state, Wanjiru brought up the issue of, could this be state-sponsored violence? And she says there's the state on both sides of the two, on both sides, they're called the two horses. when we have cabinet secretaries, so for example, the cabinet secretary for Interior, Fred Matiang'i, support a candidate, and we are told this is their constitutional right. That is what David Murathe said yesterday during a sit-down with Mark Masai. Do they undermine the institution?
Of course. First of all, it's not their constitutional right. It will be their constitutional right once they vacate the office of cabinet secretary. The constitution is clear that anyone in the office of the cabinet secretary as a state officer, you cannot be openly partisan. You can't, okay? And it doesn't matter that they were partisan before. It's wrong, okay? The deployment of the use of state resources to campaign, okay? Because we've seen other cabinet secretaries openly campaigning for one side of the political divide. Of course, it undermines the process, it undermines the integrity of the process, and it raises questions, okay? So this is a problem, although we have seen use of state resources on both sides, because right now, the challenge that Kenya faces is government is at odds with itself. The current administration is at odds with itself. The president is openly you know, against his deputy. His deputy is openly undermining him. So and yet, both sides are government, okay? Right Honorable Raila Odinga is more government than the deputy president. So it's a very messy situation that we have been placed into. And I think it's also difficult for our state agencies, especially the security apparatus, because the security apparatus has a responsibility to protect the deputy president, okay? He is a state officer and he is the sitting deputy president, so the state must provide him the necessary security. But because the chairman of the council of Azimio happens to be the president, we are also seeing heavy, you know, state security there. So the question begs, then at what point do we make the divide that perhaps it is not, that the state is not complicit, you know, in some of the things that are happening? That's the question that arises. But aside from that, we have a very good intelligence service, okay? They know what's going on. They know who is inciting. They know what the drivers and the, you know, the triggers for the violence are. We have seen reports already from Interior where there's an alert. NCIC has already raised an alert of the gangs, the jeshis, all over the country are already regrouping, you know. What we are not hearing is what's being done about it. Because if there's a jeshi on one end that is supporting a favored political persuasion, and they are allowed to carry out their illegal activities and provide informal security and to zone their turf, then that's problematic. So we are actually not in a good situation. And of course, other compounding issues. We have real compounding issues. There was the news report on the cost of living.
Yeah.
So Kenyans are already frustrated as a general population. So as Shiro says, it could get nasty. Okay. And I think that, you know, our politicians sometimes are very careless. Maybe because they feel that they can flee. But as Kenyans, we have a responsibility because we only have this Kenya.
Okay.
This is our country. So we've got to take responsibility, and there are things that we can do. We can refuse to be incited, regardless.